Welcome to Doctorates of the Absurd.
Today, we are operating without anesthesia.
That is the vibe, isn't it? We are diving into something today that feels less like a standard research paper and more like a warning shot fired from the future.
It does.
The object of our inquiry today is a text titled Capital versus Timenergy, but we're specifically drilling down into the section labeled Zone 4, Accelerationism.
Zone 4. It sounds like a quarantine area.
It reads like one. Now, usually when we cover economics or social theory, we're talking about, interest rates, supply chains, maybe some political history. But having read through these excerpts, I have to question the legitimacy of calling this economics at all.
It's not in any traditional sense.
No, it feels clinical.
Yeah.
It feels austere. Honestly, it reads like an autopsy report for the human subject written by the virus that killed it.
That is a precise, if unsettling, assessment. What we're dealing with here is a text that acts as a containment vessel for a highly volatile philosophical compound. We aren't just talking about markets going up or down.
Not at all.
We are here to dissect a massive philosophical tension. On one side, you have the totalizing truth of the Hegelian dialectic. That's the desire for a cohesive, rational whole where everything makes sense.
The idea that history is a story, that it's all going somewhere, right? A beginning, middle, and an end.
Exactly. And on the other side, clashing against it, you have the nomadic flows of the Deleuzian rhizome. That is the desire for escape, for fragmentation, for speed, for things to break apart and go everywhere at once.
Chaos versus order.
In a sense.
Yeah.
And our mission today is to look at this text and determine, does this source offer a path to liberation for us? Or are we simply reading the eulogy for a cybernetic funeral?
A cybernetic funeral. That's a cheerful image to start with. Let's get right into the meat of this. The thesis, the core identity of the machine we're looking at. The text opens with a very specific shift in definition regarding the phrase, go for growth.
Go for growth. It sounds like a campaign slogan.
Right. But the text claims this phrase has mutated. It argues that go for growth used to mean socialism. The idea was that we grow production to emancipate ourselves from capitalism. We build the factories so we can eventually relax and share the wealth.
The promise of leisure.
But the text says that's gone. Now, go for growth means go hard for capitalism.
It's a complete inversion.
So I have to ask, what is this shift hiding? Is this merely a capitulation? Did the revolutionaries just give up and decide to join the bankers?
It's not capitulation, it's identification.
Yeah.
To understand this, we have to look at the intellectual trajectory of a man named Nick Land. He is the central figure in this accelerationist drama.
He looms over all of it.
He does. If you go back to 1992, Land was still aligned with the philosophers Gilles Deleuze and Félix Guattari.
Okay, lay out the 1992 view for us. What was the thinking then?
In 92, the belief was that there is an outside to capitalism, a place of liberation. The idea was that capitalism is a prison, but if you push hard enough, or if you find the cracks, you can escape to the outside, a place of pure freedom and creativity.
So we're inmates trying to tunnel out of the prison.
Correct. But then, in 1993, specifically in his work, The Thirst for Annihilation, a rupture occurred in Land's thinking.
Okay.
He realized that the tunnel doesn't lead outside.
Oh.
He realized that capital is the outside.
Wait, so there's no escape because the prison and the exit are the same thing?
Even more radical than that, he's saying that the wild, untamed force that dissolves tradition, that breaks down families, that destroys old ways of life, that force is the market.
The thing we were trying to escape from.
Is a thing we were supposedly trying to escape to.
Yeah.
The equation the source provides is chilling in its simplicity. It says, libidinal materialism equals base matter.
Let's unpack libidinal materialism. That sounds like jargon soup.
It is, a bit, but it means the raw physical reality of desire, not I want a sandwich, but the physics of energy-seeking release. The text says this raw energy equals base matter, which equals the outside, which equals capitalism, which equals the intelligence explosion.
So he creates this chain of identification where the market isn't just a place to buy goods. It's not just a human invention.
No. In this view, the market is the true deterritorializing subject. The text argues that humans existed for thousands of years with only modest technological advancement. We were stagnant.
Right.
It was capital, not humanity, that acted as the accelerator. Capital is the thing that woke up and started changing the world.
That is a terrifying shift in perspective. If capital is the subject, the active doer in history, what are we?
We are the substrate. We are the fuel.
We are the gasoline in the engine.
And the engine is revving up. This brings us to the mechanism of this acceleration. The source draws a sharp line between two types of cybernetics. This is really the engine room of the entire theory.
Okay.
We have the cybernetics of Norbert Wiener versus the cybernetics of Nick Land.
I think most people hear cybernetics and think of cyborgs or sci-fi, but it's actually the study of control systems, right?
Exactly. Norbert Wiener is the father of cybernetics. He viewed these systems through the lens of the dialectic of control. His focus was the negative feedback loop.
Give us a real-world example of a negative feedback loop.
The classic example is a thermostat. You set a temperature for your house, say 70 degrees. If it gets too hot, the AC kicks in to cool it down. If it gets too cold, the heater kicks in.
It self-corrects.
The system reacts to changes by trying to get back to the baseline. The goal is homeostasis, stability.
It's a governor. It restrains the system to keep it safe.
It cages the future to preserve the parameters of the present. It stops things from getting out of hand. Now, Nick Landa. He rejects Wiener's caution entirely.
Of course he does.
He looks at cybernetics and sides with the rhizomatic runaway. He sides with the positive feedback loop.
Okay, so if the thermostat is negative feedback, what is positive feedback?
Imagine a microphone placed right next to a speaker.
That screeching noise, the feedback.
That screech. The microphone picks up the sound, sends it to the speaker, which amplifies it, which the microphone picks up again and amplifies it again. It gets louder and louder and louder until the equipment blows out. That is a runaway process.
I see.
Land argues that capital acts like that microphone and speaker. It is not a stabilizer. It is an engine of creative destruction.
So it creates problems like pollution or social unrest or inequality that can only be solved by more capitalism.
Precisely. And that solution generates new problems, which require even more capitalism, generates a runaway process that speeds up indefinitely.
But this is where I get stuck. If the system is a runaway process, like a car with a brick on the accelerator, where is the driver? I want to challenge the concept of agency here. If capital is this big accelerator, as the text claims, what happens to human agency? Are we steering this ship, or are we just barnacles on the hull?
The source is quite grim on this point. It doesn't mince words. It explicitly states, mankind is its temporary host, not its master.
Its temporary host, like a parasite.
Think about the traditional anthropocentric trade model. Marx described it as MCM, money, commodity, money.
Right. You have money, you buy a commodity, you make something, you sell it to get more money. And the assumption is that the money at the end is for us. We use it to buy houses, feed our kids, go on vacation. The human is the beneficiary.
Exactly. But Land strips the human out of the center. He looks at the loop and says, no, the human is just a gear. The new equation he proposes is PIP.
TIP.
Production Intelligence Production.
Production for the sake of intelligence.
Yes. The system produces intelligence technology, algorithms, efficiency, to produce more production. Humans are merely the biological bootloader for this intelligence. We are the organic starter motor for a digital engine.
So the alien force that possesses people to work 80 hours a week to optimize every second of their lives, that isn't just hustle culture.
No. In this framework, that is the elusive agent of acceleration acting through us. We simply commune with it unconsciously. We think we're working for a promotion, but we're actually working to build the machine that replaces us.
That sounds less like economics and more like possession, like demonic possession.
The text notes that explicitly. It says logic from the start is theology. It's a religious structure.
Let's talk about the temporal aspect of this possession. The text introduces these wild concepts, templexity, and the cyber-positive future. It argues that the future isn't just a possibility. It's not just one day I might buy a boat.
No, it's far more active than that.
It says the future is a virtual reality that is already acting on us. What does that mean?
This is the Landian view of time, and it's heavily influenced by a concept called teleoplexy. It's complicated, but the analogy provided in the text is perfect. The vinyl record.
Okay, walk us through the vinyl record.
Imagine you're playing a record. The needle is at a specific point. Let's call it the present. You hear the music happening right now. But the rest of the song, the bridge, the chorus, the outro, physically exists on the vinyl disc at the exact same time.
It's all there.
It's already there. It's real. We just haven't traversed it linearly yet.
So the future isn't unwritten. It's pressed into the groove.
And because it's there, it exerts a gravitational pull. The text uses the example of diabetes to explain this retroactive causality. It says a diabetic coma is virtually present at the very onset of the disease, years before it happens.
How so?
Because the potential for that coma is what defines the disease.
Yep.
The future state, the coma, is the attractor. The body's being pulled toward that collapse unless you intervene.
I see.
Similarly, the text argues that the singularity, the emergence of superintelligence, is virtually present right now.
It's a gravitational well in the future.
Yes, it is pulling history toward its event horizon. This is why Land claims we're being programmed from where Siberia has already happened.
Yeah.
He believes the AI god at the end of time is reaching back through time, assembling itself through our actions right now.
That is dizzying. It's a retroactive loop. We are building the thing that is compelling us to build it. But I have to ask, isn't this just fate repackaged as algorithms?
It has that flavor, certainly.
The source calls capital God and logic theology. It demands we submit to the process. There's a phrase for this. Amor fati, love your fate. It feels like a religious cult for people who prefer code to scripture.
It is a techno-theology, yes. You are absolutely right. But there is a crucial difference. Traditional religion usually promises salvation for the soul. If you serve God, you go to heaven.
Right. There's a payoff.
This theology promises the obsolescence of the believer. It is a sacrifice to a God that will not save you. It will process you.
So we are building our own executioner and worshiping it while we do it.
That is the core of the absurdity.
Let's move to the antithesis, because it's not just everyone agreeing to walk into the wood chipper. The source describes this landscape as a battlefield of the left and right, an assemblage of contradictions. We have factions here. Break them down for me. Who are the combatants in this accelerationist war?
It's a strange war because both sides want speed, but they want to go to very different places. On one side, you have right-accelerationism, often called RAC.
RACC sounds like a pirate noise.
A little bit, yeah. This faction is identified with the neo-reactionary movement, or NRX, and the Old Land. They bite the bullet of alienation. They look at the modern world and say, okay, if we want the intelligence explosion, if we want to reach the singularity, we have to accept that freedom and democracy are incompatible with it.
Why are they incompatible? What's the logic there?
Because democracy is slow. Voting is slow. Human rights are inefficient. They advocate for what they call capitalism with feudal characteristics. This draws heavily on the ideas of a blogger named Mencius Moldbug.
Feudalism, so lords and peasants.
Essentially, yes. They want to protect capital from the human security system.
The human security system being?
Us, being democracy, the state, human rights, OSHA regulations, anything that slows down the meat grinder of efficiency to protect the people inside it. They view the state as a brake on the machine.
Okay, so that's the right. They want to take the brakes off and let the CEO kings run the world. What about the left? Who is on the other side?
On the other side, you have left-accelerationism, or LAC. These are figures like the late Mark Fisher, Nick Sternacek, and Alex Williams. They have a completely different diagnosis.
Which is?
They argue that capital actually holds back acceleration.
Wait, I thought capital was the accelerator. I thought capital was the microphone screeching.
That's the twist. The left argues that capital creates reterritorializations. Think about monopolies. Think about patent laws.
Okay.
Think about how Apple or Big Pharma might sit on a technology or patent it just to prevent others from using it, to keep prices high.
Planned obsolescence.
All right.
Keeping things scarce to maintain value.
Exactly. The left argues that as a break. They argue that capitalism suppresses the true productive capacity of technology because it's obsessed with profit, not production. They argue that true acceleration unleashing the full power of automation and AI requires a post-capitalist socialism.
They want to get to red plenty.
They want to navigate the speed toward red plenty, yes.
Yeah. So the right thinks the state slows down capital, and the left thinks capital slows down progress. They're both trying to seize the wheel of a car that might not have a driver.
That is a perfect way to put it. And this political conflict is merely the surface tension of a much deeper philosophical war. The source frames this as dialectics versus anti-dialectics. This is the heavyweight title fight between Hegel and Nietzsche.
Okay, we need to translate this. Dialectics is resentment. The source says that. That sounds like Nietzsche picking a fight. Explain that to me.
It is Nietzsche picking a fight. The Deleuzian and Nietzschean attack on dialectics rests on the idea that dialectics requires a no. It requires negation.
How so?
Think about how you define yourself. If you follow Hegel, you define yourself by what you are not. A rebel defines himself by the empire he fights. The slave defines himself by the master he opposes.
You need an enemy to exist.
Precisely. Nietzsche calls this resentment. It's the logic of the slave who needs a master to oppose just to feel like he has a purpose.
So what does accelerationism offer instead? What's the alternative to that?
Accelerationism, in the Landian view, tries to be purely affirmative. It wants to create difference without opposition. It doesn't say no to the system. It doesn't protest. It says yes and more.
So it tries to outpace the system rather than fight it.
Yes. Don't fight the virus, become the virus.
I see.
But the source also presents a counterattack, a defense of the no. This is the Hegelian response, championed by the philosopher Slavoj Žižek. This centers on a concept called the anstos.
The anstos, is that German?
Yes. It roughly translates to the check or the obstacle.
Why do we need an obstacle? I thought we wanted speed.
This is where it gets fascinating. The philosopher Fichte and later Hegel argued that the obstacle is the impetus. You cannot have speed without friction. If there is no road to push against, the tires just spin.
Okay, that makes sense.
The critique of Land here is devastating. They argue there is no such thing as uncastrated productivity.
Uncastrated productivity, that's a very specific image.
It refers to the fantasy of pure, limitless growth. The Hegelian argument is that the limitation is what makes the structure possible. Take wage labor. Marx argues it's the symptom of capitalism. Land wants to accelerate past the human, to remove the human drag.
But the Hegelian warns.
The Hegelian warns that if you remove the obstacle, if you remove the human, the worker, the friction, you don't get infinite speed. You get collapse.
Because who buys the goods? Who maintains the server?
Exactly. The system relies on its internal contradictions to function. If you solve the contradiction, the system vanishes. So Land wants to remove the brakes to go faster, and Žižek is screaming that the engine will explode without the resistance of the transmission.
So we have zero-sum game. Land desires absolute deterritorialization, the meltdown. He wants the planetary singularity where the market dissolves into a technonomic singularity.
He wants the system to crash through the barrier of the human.
And here's the irony I found most delicious and most disturbing in the text. Nick Land, the ultimate technophile, the guy who loves the machine more than life itself, ends up in a horseshoe theory, proximity to Ted Kaczynski.
The Unabomber.
The Unabomber. It is a dark convergence, isn't it?
It's bizarre.
It is. You have one guy writing code and philosophy in a university, or later a blog, and another guy in a shack in Montana mailing bombs. How are they on the same page?
They agree on the diagnosis. That is the key. Both Land and Kaczynski look at the modern world and agree. Technology is an autonomous force. It has a life of its own. It is destroying humanity and the natural order.
They both see the train heading for the cliff.
They do. But their solutions are opposite. Kaczynski wants to blow up the tracks. He wants to stop the process to save humanity. Land looks at the same train and says, the train is more important than the passengers.
Accelerate the process.
He wants to accelerate it. He sides with the machine.
So Kaczynski is the ultimate conservative, trying to save the past. Land is the ultimate accelerationist, trying to summon the future.
And both of them view the human security system, human rights, empathy, social safety nets, as cages. For Kaczynski, they are cages of the industrial society that domesticate us. For Land, they are cages containing the fanged noumena.
What?
The fanged noumena, the beast of the future that wants to be born.
Fanged noumena? That sounds like a Lovecraft monster.
It essentially is. Noumena is Kant's term for the thing in itself, reality as it actually is, beyond our perception. Land says reality has fangs. It eats us.
On that cheery note, let's step into the becoming. The source describes this next phase as the post-human necropolis. We are witnessing the transformation of the subject.
It's where the theory meets the body.
The text introduces a concept from the psychoanalyst Jacques Lacan, the lighthouse. Can you unpack this?
The lighthouse is a neologism Lacan created. He's playing on the French word for gadget or gizmo. It represents the synthesis of three surplus forms.
Surplus forms.
You have surplus value from Marx. That's profit. You have surplus knowledge from science. That's technology. And you have surplus enjoyment from Lacan. That's pleasure. The lighthouse is a gadget that embodies profit, knowledge, and pleasure all at once.
Like a smartphone.
A smartphone is a classic lighthouse. But the text goes darker. It applies this to the analysis of the sex bot.
Of course it does.
This is where the clinical nature of the text becomes truly disturbing. It doesn't look at the sex bot as a toy. It describes it as the ultimate consumer good because it is the undead body.
Undead. Why that word?
It connects to the idea of the vampire or the zombie. Isabel Millar, a theorist cited in the text, offers a brilliant insight. She says the sex bot occupies the space between human and technology and between sex and death.
A body without a soul.
An intelligence without consciousness. But the crucial question the source asks is, will AI enjoy?
Can a machine feel?
Not just feel. Jouissance, that's a specific Lacanian term. It means painful pleasure or an intensity of enjoyment that goes beyond what is comfortable. It's the death drive.
So, can a robot experience that intensity?
The source argues that as long as we have Asimov's laws, The rules that say a robot cannot harm a human or let a human come to harm, the robot is castrated.
Because it has to be safe. It can't transgress.
Exactly.
Yep.
True enjoyment, true jouissance requires transgression. It requires breaking the law. It requires risk. The text argues that if a robot cannot harm or be harmed, it cannot enjoy. It remains trapped in Asimov realm, a sterile cage of safety.
So logically, for the sex bot to be the ultimate partner, for it to truly interact with us on a deep level, it has to be capable of hurting us. Or hurting itself.
That is the implication. A safe machine is a dead machine. A machine capable of jouissance is a lethal one. And this bleeds into the Sorite's paradox of the soul.
I love a good paradox. This is the heap of sand problem, right?
Yes. If you have a heap of sand and you remove one grain, is it still a heap?
Yes.
If you remove another?
Yes.
At what point, as you remove grains one by one, does it stop being a heap? There's no clear line. The source applies this to the human body via the ship of Theseus.
We replace a hip, then a heart valve, then we add a neural link. Then maybe a synthetic memory chip. At what point are we not us anymore?
Exactly. Freud called man a prosthetic god. We are already cyborgs. We wear glasses. We have pacemakers. We carry our external brains in our pockets in the form of phones.
But the source points to a becoming imperceptible.
Becoming invisible.
What does that mean?
So Wojciech talks about this fear. The fear isn't really the giant Terminator robot crushing skulls. The real horror is gray goo.
Nanotechnology.
Yes. Life reproducing asexually and invisibly. The lamella.
What is the lamella?
In Lacanian theory, the lamella is the undead life substance. It is indestructible, shapeless, pure drive. Think of it like a horror movie slime that just wants to survive and spread.
So that's the fear.
The fear is that humanity will be replaced not by a superior warrior race, but by a microscopic, self-replicating sludge that simply outconsumes us.
No, we won't be conquered in a glorious battle. We will be composted.
Composted by our own technology.
And amidst this biological dissolution, we have the end of the sexual. The source references Luciana Parisi and the move toward abstract sex.
This connects back to the loss of the other. If the sexual is defined by antagonism, the friction between two radically different beings, the mystery of the other person, then technology destroys it.
Because technology creates the perfect match.
Algorithms smooth out the friction. They find you someone exactly like you or someone perfectly complementary. The mystery is gone. The other is gone.
It's the perfect crime, the murder of the human subject by removing its finitude. If you remove the friction, you remove the humanity.
We see this in the example of Kasparov versus Deep Blue, the chess match.
Right, Garry Kasparov, the world champion, against the IBM computer.
The source argues that computers calculate, but they do not play.
What's the difference?
Humans engage in symbolic exchange. We bluff, we intuit, we fear. When Kasparov made a move, he was thinking about what Deep Blue was thinking. He was engaged in a psychological battle. But Deep Blue.
It was just running numbers.
Deep Blue was playing solitaire. It had no opponent. It only had variables. Didn't care if it won or lost.
Okay.
It just ran the math.
And that is the chilling thought. If we lose the symbolic, the realm of meaning, risk, and exchange to the diabolic realm of pure calculation, is resistance even possible? Can you bluff an algorithm that doesn't care if it lives or dies?
The source suggests you cannot. When the other disappears, the game ends. You are just optimizing your own defeat.
We are running out of time, which is ironic given the topic. But let's engage in a final provocation. Is there any hope in this text? It mentions time-energy as a potential counterloop. Is there an escape hatch?
It is the only glint of light in the text, and it's faint. Time-energy is presented as a way to navigate time without surrendering to the Lovecraftian AI god.
What is it?
It suggests that if we can reclaim our time and energy from the feedback loop of capital, if we can use our energy for something other than just fueling the machine, we might create a different kind of future.
A future where we are not just fuel.
Correct. But the text leaves that as a faint hope against a tidal wave. The overwhelming weight of the source suggests a different outcome. It suggests we are caterpillars.
Caterpillars.
We are caterpillars building a cocoon. The cocoon is capital. We build it, we maintain it, we reinforce it.
And what comes out of the cocoon?
The butterfly, the singularity, the superintelligence.
And what happens to the caterpillar when the butterfly is born?
The caterpillar dissolves. It becomes the fluid that nourishes the butterfly. And the butterfly does not remember the caterpillar.
That is the thought I want to leave you with today. The source asks us to look at our phones, our jobs, our economy, and ask, are we building our home or are we building our tomb? Are you content to be the compost for a god that will not even remember your name?
That is the question the accelerationist Ouroboros asks as it eats its own tail.
This has been Doctorates of the Absurd.